given. So within that time limit, they have to solve the problem. So the entire audience is divided into teams, say 5 teams, and the problem will be given by the teacher, and the students should solve those problem within the stipulated time period. Whichever team solves the problem in the stipulated time period, they will be declared as the winner. We call it as bus sessions. So these are all democratic teaching. These are all democratic teaching, meaning two-way communication. Two-way communication. Of course, we can do democratic teaching with a field work and survey also. Then clinical teaching, as I said, it's a lab-oriented teaching. Lab-oriented teaching where the audience will be taken to the particular lab, whether in terms of respective area. Say if it is a hospital, then hospital related hospital will be hospital lab will be the students will be taken to that particular lab, and they will be given training on it. If it is a computer based learning, then the students will be brought to the computer lab, and they will be given real time programming. So workshop can be a best example for this clinical teaching method. Based on the observation, this is they have given an example for say what teaching, what class, what clinic, based on an hospital wherein nurses are given real time demonstration on the tasks. We call it as clinical learning. Then we have one second. So what is actually a lecture? What is actually a lecture? It's nothing but clarification and explanation of fact. Clarification and explanation of facts in a clear way. We call it as enunciation. We call it as enunciation. Enunciation is nothing but explaining the facts, principles, or relationships, whatever you say, explaining the facts to the audience in a clear cut fashion. We call it as enunciation. So, enunciate is a lecture. Enunciate is a lecture, and lecture is a term which came from French language, and it's the meaning of just reading. Reading is an oral presentation intended to present information or teach people about a particular subject. So these are the expansions we have for the letters in lecture. L stands for liveliness. E stands for, I think, when you learn all these expansions, you will understand what is the with what clarity you should meet the audience, with what clarity you should meet the audience, whether they may be students or faculty or industrial person, doesn't matter. Lecture is a word which is common to all. Liveliness, first you should, the whatever you handle, your class should be lively. You should give proper examples, relevant examples, and explain the facts clearly, and you should first pronounce the words clearly, which ensures liveliness in your class. Then educative, out of the box what you are delivering, and when the students or the audience go outside your class, what is the thing that they carry, we call it as educative. Then creative, from this how can they make their, or they increase their creativeness, that is creative. Then thought provoking, this should stimulate something in their mind, that is called as thought provoking. Then understanding, relevant and enjoyable. So these are the expansions given for the keyword lecture. So when you fulfill all these words, definitely you will be a good lecturer, right? Then planning the lecture, of course, before going into a class, you should know who's your audience, what is the purpose of your lecture, what is the thing that you are going to handle, how much time is available. You cannot keep on talking for say hours, which is meaningless. The other side audience will sleep. So your talk should make them energetic. In such a way you should speak how much time is available, and it should be crisp and clear. Then what is the objective, what is the these are the questions you should answer before you get into the lecture hall. Who is your audience? What is the purpose of your lecture? And how much time is available? What is the objective they have? What is the subject matter? What is the actual subject matter? You should not speak away from the subject. It should be concised within your subject. If you answer these 4 questions and get into the lecture hall, definitely you will succeed, and the students or the whoever is our audience definitely will like your lecture. Then lecture delivery, these things should be taken care of. Speaker audience distance, they should not be too far away. Audience should not be too far away from the speaker. It should be, the distance should be minimal. Then body movement and stand, it should be elegant, like it should not have some timid behavior. What do you mean by say it should not have any annoying behavior. The speaker should not have any annoying behavior. He should not repeat the word, single word again and again, and he should not bite his nails. So these things, I call it as annoying behavior. That is called as body movement and stand. Then facial expression is most important. You should have a pleasing experience for the audience. Then of course gesture. Gesture is your hand movement, hand movement. Your hand movement meaning you should not, you should, it should be pleasable. Again, your voice strength. Of course, as I said, enunciation. Enunciation meaning you should explain the things clearly. Pronunciation means you should explain the words, pronounce the words clearly. Pronounce the words clearly. And then rate of speech. It should not be too fast or too slow. It should be medium. And you should not repeat the words again and again. And variety. Variety is nothing but you should bring in all relevant examples, whichever you can quote for that particular subject. Then the class will be lively. Then pauses, then and there, pauses should be there. It should not be a monologue kind of thing. Then and there, you can pass your speech and ask questions to the audience, so that it will be an democratic or dialogue oriented teaching. Then of course, this is the best thing, use of ICT, information and communication technology tools. Use of ICT, information and communication technology tools. So what is ICT, information and communication technology? It's nothing but just a tool or a software with which you can explain the objectives to the audience in a simpler way and clear way. In a simpler and clear way. It's a term referring to digital tool. Those digital tool can be either in the form of a software, application, or hardware, which is used for demonstrating the objectives to the audience clearly. So we know many information and communication technology tools: computers, laptops, desktops, data projector, software programs, printers, scanners, and of course we have many ICT tools. So here is a glimpse of those ICT tools. Even in Google, if you see, you have n number of ICT tools which we will be recently using during this lockdown, right? Most of you would have used this Jamboard, which has almost replaced your smart board in schools. So you would have heard about this smart board. Smart board is nowadays they are using in schools. So whatever they write on the board, it will be right on the smart board. It's a piece of board wherein you will be given a pen. You will write on the board. It will be directly made visible on your blackboard or your projector. That is called a smart board, which is replaced with Google Jamboard. Google Jamboard. In Jamboard, I think many of you would have taken this online classes in Jamboard. Then we have podcast, PODCASTS, podcast. So what is a podcast? Podcast is nothing but a recorded audio for a few minutes, wherein if recorded audio about the latest topic for few minutes, about the latest topic. So if like YouTube, I can go for Google Podcast and search for an item. An audio will be displayed related to that particular item. Your end user can just hear that audio and get some information about the current topic. That is called as podcast, which is also famous with the Google Podcast. Then, of course, many of you are familiar with Google Forms. Google Forms are nothing but wherein which is almost replaced your manual, that is A4 sheet, right? Through Google Form, I automatically collect the necessary information from the user, and it will be stored in the Excel. From the Excel, I can directly post it into the database for further use, or I can manipulate. I can say make some decision making from the Excel. And this is relevant to Google Forms. Then we have this Kahoot. I think many of you would have used this Kahoot, K-H-O-O-T. Kahoot is nothing but if I want to understand about the students, what is their feedback about the teaching process, what is the requirement of the audience. So if I want to understand the particular audience, then I can use this Kahoot. Again, again it is an ICT software. Of course, you are familiar with email, printer, scanner, everything. CD, flash driver, then your data projectors, then we have memory cards, camcorder. So most of the things whatever you here displayed all are ICT tools, and you are familiar with all these, right? Apart from this, I have just taken notepad, what is the Jamboard, forms, podcast. Then many of you would have been familiar with this Khan Academy. Khan Academy, it's nothing but an English learning software where I can enroll even the school students for this. Then Prezi is again a software which is meant for your presentation style to improve your PREZI. It is a presentation software to improve your slide presentation. So these are some of the ICT tools I can use. Usage of ICT tools should be maximum for this lecture delivery, which is again a requirement nowadays, mandatory requirement nowadays. And for what are all the things I am using this ICT tools? So to make the picture smart, I can just create an digital storybook. To make the picture smart, I can create an digital storybook. To make the body smart, I can say smart boards, interactive smart boards. And similarly, to make the nature smart, take the digital images of the that is natural environment can be taken as pictures, and they can be shown in digital methodology using a video kind of thing. Similarly, to make the word smart, I can say I can use some interactive, that is the open access journal, like Turnitin. Turnitin, I suppose you all might be knowing. Turnitin is an authentic, that is a plagiarism checking software, Authenticate, to make the word smart. So it removes the duplicate words and checks for plagiarism, and I can reframe the words using those kind of softwares. Then to create the people smart, I can, of course, you would have heard about this Swayam and NPTEL, right? So through those things, I can do self-learning. Self-learning can be done via this Swayam, EDX, Future Skills, NASCOM, or Coursera, to make the people smart. Then to make the logic smart, I can directly collect the data using Google Form instead of giving hard copy to the users. I can use Google Forms. Similarly, create oneself, to make oneself smart, I can create a blog of myself, and I can give the blog ID to others so that it may be displayed in the social media so that everyone can view my profile and I can get more links out of it. So these are also one of the ways for using ICT tools. Clear? Picture, to make the picture smart, body smart, nature smart. So I think every smartness is covered here with some shortage of ICT mechanism. Then of course, what are all the advantages of lecture methods? We have advantages of lecture as well as disadvantages of lecture methods. Advantages are nothing but it's cost effective, quick and straightforward delivery, and it is time saving, and you gather some fact after a lecture. That facts are made rememberable, and it's easy to create. Once you prepare the material, it's safe for ever. What are the disadvantages? So major disadvantages, one side affair. Major disadvantages, one side affair. And of course, one who has good proficient oral skills can make the class lively, or can make the lecture can make the lecture. Other side is passive audience. Some audience may sleep, other end they are not reciprocative, then the class becomes very dull. So active audience, only if active audience are there, the class is lively. Passive audience, this is a flaw. Then minimizes the feedback from the students. They will not be attentive all the time. So it they think like we missed out some sessions and we are not eligible for giving feedback for this. So minimizes the feedback of the session. Of course, no place for any practical activity and demonstration. Nowadays, even grade 1, 2, 3, they are purely demonstrated only with practical sessions. So this method is a flaw. Lecturing method is a flaw with children below grade 4. Then how to improve? Definitely by including ICT tools, I can improve the lecturing methods. And of course, lecturer should focus on the topic, and PPT presentation will improve the method of lecturing where I include only major points and explain in detail. Then wherever I need to repeat the concepts again and again. And of course, the lecturer should be enthusiastic. If I correct all these things, then definitely my lecture will be an successful one. Of course, what is a good lecture? Good lecture is nothing but avoid annoying mannerisms. Annoying mannerisms are nothing but, as I said, the audience should not get irritated out of my mannerism, right? That is called as annoying mannerism. Then tailor speech and writing, proper use of body language, topic based on need and interest. Then clarify the concepts with examples. I call it as enunciation. Then pronunciation should be important. Then manage the lecture in time. Then second one, this is about the first one actually. Whatever we saw, it's all about the teacher-based learning. Teacher-based learning. Then discussion methods we have. It's a democratic learning. We have two-way communication. Two-way communication. Both the trainers and the listeners will speak during the discussion. During the discussion, both the trainers and the audience will speak. It helps to foster the trainees' involvement in what they are learning, and it improves the feedback mechanism also. So here the best example is group discussion. Group discussion where two-person on a common more than two-person speak on a common subject with the objective of achieving some specific conclusion or result. It's like debating. Group discussion is like debating on a common topic. Debating done by a group of people on a common topic. We call it as group discussion. Then advantages of group discussion is nothing but definitely you hear your peer ideas, and you yeah, inculcate those ideas in you if they are effective. We call it as effective learning. Then emphasis on the student experience, development of critical thinking, participation by everybody. Definitely, if it is a group discussion, everybody should speak. Then peer learning, of course, you get the ideas from them. Then disadvantages, if one person dominate in the group discussion, then there is a chance of making the others dumb. Some persons will sit idle, so they will not improve their thinking. So dominate with personal feeling. Of course, chances of deviation from the topic and dominance by one person. These are the disadvantages of your group discussions. So small group discussion is nothing but 5 to 20 people. They meet with the breakouts of large, and in a larger meeting can be divided into smaller group discussions using, even in Zoom itself you can make that, online itself you can make that smaller group discussions where thousands of audience will join together, and they will be separated into breakout sessions. They will be separated into breakout sessions, say with the 50 in each breakout, and a moderator will be there in each breakout session, and he will deliver the topic, and it will be debatable by both two groups. It will be divided into two groups, and it is a debatable topic by two groups. Breakout sessions, which is there in online also, you can use that. um, of course, time limit is there for this group discussion. Breakout groups, round table, I can conduct the group discussion in a round table or study circle or in the form of an workshop also. Then as I said, bus method is nothing but as 2 to 3 people will be there, and it will be divided into teams where each team consists of 2 to 3 people, and they should deliver the task, and they should deliver the task within a stipulated time, that is called as bus, on a specific period of time. Complete the specific task in a specific period of time, we call it as bus. Features, of course, this is informal method, no need to move for discussion or breakout rooms. Discussion is on only one issue, question or point. No need for in-depth of analysis. Just they will give an question, and the other end they should give the answer. Whoever gives the answer in the stipulated period of time, they are considered to be the winner, which is called as bus group method. And of course, leader is not there. Everybody's contribution will make a team to win. Right? Minimum is 2 to 3 participants are involved in this. And of course, time is 5 to 10 minutes, and supervise each group and encourage individuals to participate. It stop discussion after the allocated time. So advantages, of course, each person in the group is involved, produce the result in minimum time, and then it creates an informal, no leader is there, so it creates an informal atmosphere. Then disadvantages, effectiveness of a group may be lowered by immature behavior of a few. Like if all the team members, 2 to 3 members, they are smart, then that particular team wins. If anybody is dumb there, then that particular team will not win, and it takes more time to complete the task. Of course, depends on the. Then next one is fishbowl. Fishbowl strategy is nothing but where two concentric circles will be there. In the inner circle, a group of people will be there. In the outer circle, a group of observers will be there. Inner circle people are alone allowed to speak. Outer circle just note down the points spoken by them. This is called as fishbowl technique. Fishbowl technique is nothing but wherein you have two concentric circles. In the inner circles, a number of people will be there. They are called as speakers. In the outer circle, there will be a number of people. They are called as observers. So speakers speak among themselves. Observers just make a note of the point, whatever spoken by the speaker, which is called as fishbowl. Fishbowl inner circle is created wherein members of the audience participate. This method is easy to organize, and of course, they speak among themselves. The observer make a note of it. So good involvement of the audience, and it's basically used for improving the communication skill of the students. So you can try out this technique in your class as well, wherein people who feel difficulty in speech, they can be given as observers, and people who are good at speech can be made as audience, so that observer will make a note of whatever issues spoken by the audience. Next time they can be made as inner circle, and these people can be made as observers. So this is based on two concentric circles. Of course, the activity is 60 to 90 minutes, and it can be, there are two types of fish bowls, open and closed. Open is nothing but any audience can join the inner circle at any time. He can give his suggestions, and he can just leave the inner circle. That is called as open fishbowl. Open fishbowl is nothing but any audience can join the inner circle, and he can give his suggestions, and he can leave the inner circle. Whereas a closed thing is one till the decision is over. Nobody can, no other person from the outside can join the fishbowl. So this is how fishbowl is set up. Inner circle participant discuss about the novel issues. Observers of interaction record the inner circle behaviors. Observers of the conversation take note about what the inner circle discusses. Later, these students will compose blog. So you can try it out in your classes also, fishbowl technique. So whatever I said, students will be arranged in a circle, and here we have two students in the inner circle, and outer students we have open fishbowl and closed fishbowl. Open fishbowl, any time any audience can occupy the empty chair and join the fishbowl. Of course, when a new person joins, an existing person should leave the fishbowl. The discussion continues with the participants entering and leaving the fishbowl. This is a open fishbowl. So closed fishbowl, the initial participants within the stipulated period of time they are allowed to speak. No other person can enter the circle. Right? Once the thing is concluded, moderator closes the fishbowl and summarizes the discussion. This is closed fishbowl. Then next thing is seminar. Seminar where group of people coming together for the discussion and learning of specific techniques and topics. So the word seminar, it's derived from the Latin word seed plot. Seed plot, seminarium meaning seed plot. Again, it's for group of people. Seminar for higher learning, which involves paper reading. Seminar is a thing which is on general topics. You cannot correlate a seminar with your syllabus. Syllabus is nothing but you call it as guest lecture, right? At speaking on the syllabus, you call it as guest lecture. Seminar is nothing but a topic will be given, a group of people will be addressed with that particular topic by a speaker. We call it a seminar. Mini seminar, main seminar, national seminar, and international seminar. Mini seminar is nothing but you can call some person in these some students from the class and ask them to deliver on a particular topic. You can call it as classroom level. Main seminar is nothing but say I cause talk about NBA or NAC address to a group of person. We call it as address to a group of colleagues in the college. We call it as main seminar. The national level seminar where I address on a particular say industry adaptation to open source technology. Again, it is a national seminar. It's addressed to a number of people. International level is when I call audience from international level. I call it as international seminar. So these are the samples I have for departmental seminar, classroom seminar, then this is national seminar and international seminar. So an ideal seminar, it lasts for 1 to 2 hours. Topic is presented by the presenter and care to, should be taken to avoid stereotypes. In student seminar, students present their data in an informal way. All the members take part in an informal way, but in an orderly manner. So requirement is teacher is the leader, 10 to 15 members are the participant. The topic is presented by the student taking 15 to 20-minute time. Duration is 1 to 2 hours. Informal way under the leadership of the teacher. The chairman, of course, whoever is taking the seminar, they should be skilled with the particular topic. A student secretary should record the problem which arise and the solution given. Role of the seminar. The following roles are there in the seminar: organizer, chairman, participant, and observers. Organizer, chairman, participant, and observers. Advantages is, of course, cooperation with other develops, then openness of idea. It has great instructional values, natural way of learning. Limitations is, 1 second. Limitations is nothing but seminar is a time consuming because we it lasts for 2 hours. Say it cannot be applied to new students. You should have some prerequisite knowledge before coming to the seminar, and it's not used in all levels of education. Some people will not understand through seminar. They need some lecture or they need some workshop or they need some say training, special kind of training. So seminar is not suitable at all levels of education. Then timid students may initially feel nervous. Timid students are nothing but the students who are not clear of ideas or who are dull students. Definitely they will feel nervous for handling the seminar. If subject knowledge is poor, unnecessary, again for the seminar, the important thing is the chairman or the chairman should be strong in the subject which is taught. If that is not so, unnecessary discussions arise. Then the approach to problem solving extends to students' professional and personal activities. Then we have 1 second. Next one with the seminar. Next one is your panel discussion. So as I said, panel discussion, we have a group of people discussing on the specific issue or topic of interest, discussing on the specific issue or topic of interest. Of course, by discussing on the topic, latest topic, we can get information about the currently trending topics. And for we have two types of panel discussions here: public panel discussion and educational discussion. We are bothered about educational discussion. Who are all the members there in the panel discussion? We have a moderator, we have set of panelists, we have an instructor, we have an moderator, we have an instructor, and set of panelists. So this is how I can, that is table arrangement which is there for a panel discussion. For a panel discussion, first thing is it should identify the goal and purpose. What is the topic you are going to discuss with the panel? We call it as step 1. Then step 2 is invite the experts to become panelists. So what is that? A person who is strong in that particular topic, is invited as panelist. Then, of course, a person who's more strong in that topic is invited to be a moderator. Then determine the rules of the panel discussion, that is a time limit, and what is the uh, time limit, and what are the rules and regulations we have for the panel. So those things should be told in advance with the panelist. Then, of course, write the questions of the panelist. Arrange the panel discussion to be recorded through a camera. Then present and introduce the panelist at the beginning of the panel, which is the job of the moderator. Then conduct the discussion as planned, following the established rules. Then conclude the panel description. Of course, this is the job of the moderator again. Whatever he has concluded from the panel, it should be discussed in open forum, and closing remarks should be given by the moderator. Then, of course, send thank you notes to the panelist and the moderator for the participation. Next one is workshop. Workshop is nothing but hands-on experience, experience provided on a particular topic. We call it as an workshop. Hands-on experience provided on a particular topic, we call it as an workshop, which is the best methodology for learning through experience. So we have it's similar to seminar, but with a greater degree of attendance, participation, interaction, hands-on experience, and it is focused on a particular skill. Workshop is focused on a particular skill. Seminar is focused on a particular topic. Both are different, skill and topic. Here, I learn a particular tool through a workshop. I learn a particular programming through a workshop. So all these comes under your workshop. Seminar is on a particular topic where you will not be provided on a hands-on experience. An educational seminar or series of meeting emphasizes interaction and exchange of information using smaller number of participants. Then characteristics of workshop, it is of course activity based, and it has high production limit with limited number of participants. So of course it is less formal, so that it is a democratic communication or dialogue oriented communication where the trainer and the participant can get clarified with each of their doubts. Then some preparation, of course, the trainer needs to prepare, like before starting the workshop, whatever things that need to be installed, if it is a computer related workshops, what are all the software hardware need to be installed, those things should be taken care of. So it requires some preparation in advance. And of course the session should be planned, well planned session, workshop session should be well planned in advance. From the workshop I can create a problem solving technology, like involves collaborative problem solving, and the participants feel that they are part of the learning community because they try out whatever been taught with on their own hands. So definitely they will feel as part of the learning community. Then it's a group building, they get clarified with their peers all their doubts. Then it encourages communication and acceptance of the others viewpoints also. It is useful when the solutions to the problem are not clear. Definitely some sort of solution will come out after the workshop. Of course, if the working session is very less, then I cannot come out with an solution. It needs to at least 3 days workshop kind. 1 day workshop will not work out to solve a problem. It can be difficult to keep focused and clear about desired outcome. Then dominance, if particular member is dominant, it makes the other persons dumb. These are the steps in organizing a workshop. First is opening a file. Opening a file is nothing but you have to do a little documentation, approval process, everything that is called as opening a file. And of course, the resource person's biodata, everything comes under opening a file. Then formulation of aims and objective. What is the problem that you are going to solve with the workshop? That should be clearly defined. Then arrangements of funds, selection of participants, selection of experts. Selection of experts and participants are most important with the case of a workshop. Participants should like the topic chosen, and the expert should be expert in the topic delivered. So both things need to be correlated. Both are correlated, then only the workshop will be a success. Then date and place of the workshop, it should be place should be ventilated, and all the necessary equipment should be placed before the workshop is started. Then committee of sponsors, if at all I need to conduct the workshops with some professional sponsors, then it need to be discussed in advance. Then working language, it's usually conducted in a national language like English, and it should be conducted in a national language workshop. Invitation to participants, of course, they can be mailed or they can be sent a personal invite through WhatsApp, right? So these are the steps I need to complete or initially start the workshop. File is nothing but, as I said, the thing, public press evaluation, everything. Aims and objectives, then arrangements of funds. Then we have the date and place. Non-working day is usually chosen as the first day of the workshop. Non-working day is usually chosen for the first day of the workshop. Place of the workshop is selected keeping in mind the feasibility of the participant to reach the venue. Then identification of the sponsors, they are nothing but individuals who aid the organization and in managing the funds. The workshop is carried out in a national language or usually English. Invitation to participants, like I can specify the aims of the workshop, aim of the workshop, working methods of the workshop, and theme of the workshop. They can be sent with a personal letter or mail. Then roles in workshop, roles of organizers of the workshop, convener in the first stage, roles of the experts or roles of the participants. Program schedule is prepared by the organizer. He has to arrange the boarding and lodging facilities for the participants. Convener is nothing but theoretical aspects are discussed by the experts on the theme of the workshop. Convener is nominated, who's well known with the theme. Organizer is nothing but boarding and lodging. Then convener is with respect to the theme. Then expert is nothing but providing the participant at every stage and train them to perform the task effectively. Then trainee is nothing but the actual participant. They have to acquire the understanding of the theme first. Then they have to practice in the workshop with the proper guidance and interest. Then outcomes of the workshop. Workshop results in personal and professional growth. Of course, friendship results in peer friendship, team spirit, and human relations. So find your talent, enhance your result, and help others. This is the motto behind an workshop. Find your talent, enhance your skills, and help others. So it's a problem solving method again, and leadership quality will be enhanced. Active participation is possible with the workshop. Disadvantage is nothing but it requires a lot of time for the participant and the faculty. Special facilities, the boarding and lodging, and in case of a lab, what are all the things, software, hardware. So those things need to be provided, which is a practical difficulty we face when we conduct an workshop. And of course, where it cannot be conducted by a single person, we need a group of person for conducting the workshop. It is time consuming. It cannot be organized for a large group of people. The next one is symposium as a series of events. Series of events, I call it as a symposium. It consists of a set of program prepared speeches followed by audience discussion. So here they call it a set of prepared speeches. So a number of speakers will be there. After they complete, the audience discussion will follow. But generally we can consider symposium as a set of events, irrelevant events. So here they call it a set of irrelevant speeches, but it can be set of irrelevant events. The main purpose is to understand, provide the understanding to the students or listeners about the problem specifications. If it is general, certain value added things can also be correlated with this symposium. So this is the actual definition of a symposium. It consists of a set of program of prepared speeches followed by audience discussion. So it's a technique in which two or more person under the direction of the chairman. This is most important. So for symposium, we have a chairman. Under the guidance of the chairman only, the others, say secretary or treasurer, whoever, they should act with the guidance of the chairman. So objectives is to develop values and feeling regarding the problem, to enable the listeners to form policies regarding the problem, to develop the ability to decision and judgment regarding a problem. Of course, to understand the aspects of the theme. So characteristics of a symposium. It provides understanding of the topic or the problem. It is useful for higher classes to specific theme and problem. It provides the different views on the topics of the symposium. It develops the feeling of cooperation and adjustment. The objective as synthesis and evaluation are achieved by employing the symposium. Definitely, it improves the leadership qualities of the students. So, what do you mean by micro teaching? Use of micro teaching in teacher education. Use of team teaching in school. Micro teaching meaning I will again I will play my I will record my video of teaching and share it with my peers for suggestion. That is called as micro teaching. Micro teaching is nothing but the instructor will record his or her video, say for 1 hour or 2 hour, then send the same video to their peers. Peers are nothing but again they are faculty. Again they are faculty, and they give opinion on their recorded video so that they can improve on themselves. Whichever part they need to improve, they can improve, and they in turn deliver to the students again. That is called as micro teaching. So it is suitable to a larger group of classes. Of course, many people, almost all the students will participate in the symposium, and it improves the organization. It in turn improves the organization. So this is what I call it as micro teaching. Micro teaching is nothing but a teacher training and faculty development technique wherein the teacher reviews a recording of a teaching session, reviews and recording of the teaching session in order to get constructive feedback from the peers and improvements that can be made to their teaching technique. So this can be employed and this is employed in recent days frequently by all the faculty. Like I will deliver and recorded audio or video to my peer. The peer listen to that audio or video and give the suggestions to me on which areas I can improve. So this is called as micro teaching. Micro teaching definitely will improve the language of the faculty and technique, both normal that is spoken language and technical language of the faculty. So it's invented in mid 1960s at Stanford University by Allen, and it has been almost used by all educators in all form of education. So this is what micro teaching. wherein a group of people, we call them as peers, will be listening to your audio or video and give suggestions on your teaching. Okay, micro teaching is teaching reduced in time, number of students, and range of activities. Once that video is found to be clear, you can post it in all your social media, and you can post that video in your classroom so that it will reduce your lecturing time. So characteristics is, it is a controlled practice, and immediate feedback you can get from the students after listening to the video. Then development of specific teaching skill, it is a real teaching situation. It is scaled down teaching, complexity of classroom teaching situation illama, it is a scaled down teaching, we are delivering it through online. And skills of micro teaching include, you have skill of explanation, skill of questioning, skill of stimulus variation, and skill of blackboard writing. The components blackboard writing are legibility, size and alignment, highlighting the main points. Then position of the teacher, of course, in micro teaching, the position of the teacher matters a lot, and utilization of the space. So here in this micro teaching, what they have given is introduction skill, skill of probing the question, skill of explanation, skill of achieving the closure, and skill of blackboard writing, skill of stimulation variance. Phases is, you have three phases in micro teaching: knowledge acquisition phase, skill acquisition phase, and transfer phase. Knowledge acquisition phase is, this micro teaching is all basically plan, observe, act. Sorry, observe, plan, and act. Re-observe, replan, and re-execute or react. So this is these are the things you have to be concentrating on micro teaching: observe, plan, act, re-observe, replan, react. So based on the suggestions given by the peers, you have to re-observe, replan, and react. So knowledge acquisition phase, you call it as observe the demo skill. Observe, then skill acquisition, prepare or plan. Actual plan is called as skill acquisition phase. Then transfer phase is nothing but act. Act or execute. Transfer the skill to execution. We call it as transfer phase. So micro lesson plan, it can take for 2 hours a day, teaching 5 minutes, feedback session 5 minutes, replan, reteach, re-feedback. So whatever I told, observe, plan, and act, the same thing is happening. But in time, with respect to time limitation, they have given plan, teaching, feedback, replan, reteaching. Of course, reduced complexity, it develops the confidence by having a practice of under micro teaching under simulated condition. behavior modific uh, Behavior modification technique, it is a behavior modification technique. And individualized teaching. So advantages, more understanding of teaching, and it's a real teaching. Self evaluation is possible by analyzing one's teaching performed. Only thing is costly video recording, which is a limitation. For training in micro teaching, sufficient time is required because many people will not be familiar with audio or video recording of their own. Then it is skill oriented rather than content oriented, and scope of micro teaching is narrow. Then simulation. Next form of teaching is simulation. It allows an educator to to present real time model, and explaining a particular concept. Almost everything can be simulated, and everything has a simulation, right? In general, simulation is a technique or device that attempts to create characteristic of the real world, mimicking the real world. I call it as simulation, mimicking the real world, almost in healthcare. It refers to you can simulate a patient or part of the patient. So, healthcare is one such example. Even in computers, I can do simulation. I can simulate the real model of the computer. I can simulate the real, in healthcare, I can simulate the real model of the human body on parts of the body. It's a decision modeling techniques. So, I can bring in an 3D gaming effect with the simulation. So, it mimics the reality of a clinical environment and are designed to demonstrate procedure decision making and critical thinking through techniques such as role playing and the use of devices such as interactive videos and mannequins. So, principle of simulation, it is a clearly stated objective actual patient care experience. So, what I'm going to simulate, that should be very clear, and accordingly I should carry on with the simulation. Feedback and evaluator of simulation session, evaluation of simulation session should also be taken into account. So define the problem, introduce important, these are the steps for a simulation. Define the problem, introduce important variables, construct the model, specify the values of the variables to be tested, conduct the simulation, examine the result, select best course of action. So here I need to clearly classify what is to be tested, what is the outcome of the test. It provides feedback to the learners on the consequences of action and decision made. It motivates the students by making real life situations exciting and interesting. Then this is, as I said, programmed instruction is nothing but I will express it as a sequence of tasks which are pre-programmed, and once the student enters into a particular wizard, it will guide through him to complete a particular task. Programmed learning instruction is research-based system which helps learners to work successfully. It is an integrated structural system which may employ programmed books, testing, teaching machine films in various forms or audiovisual devices. So as I said, it leads the student through a set of frames of specified behavior designed and sequenced to make it probable that he will understand the particular thing in a desired way. So you have linear programming, branching programming, mathematics programming, and computer assisted programming. You know what is a linear programming, guiding to through a set of task in a linear fashion. Branching programming is nothing but once he goes through a linear set of fashions, he will be asked a question, yes or no. According to the question, yes, if he suggests yes, it will branch it to a next sequence of next sequence of steps. If he gives no, it will branch to a sequence of tasks. Then it is called as branching programming. Mathematics programming is nothing but learning how to. Mathematics refers to the science of learning. Science of learning. It guides you through a set of tasks. Then computer assisted instruction is nothing but like your wizard. So this is linear programming based on the pass or fail branch. If he branches to a set of tasks, then it is called as branching program. Steps for development of the branching program. Steps for development of program instruction include selection on the topic to be programmed, identify the objectives, content analysis, and writing objective in behavioral terms, then construction of the criterion test, deciding appropriate strategy of the program, writing the program phase, then group tryout, revising and editing the program and preparing the final delt, master validation or evaluation of the program in terms of internal and external criteria. So this is programmed instruction. So whatever we saw now, it's in so it helps to develop high efficiency. It facilitates the self-evaluation. Student is actively involved because he is going to go through a sequence of tests to complete a task. Then the student proceeds at his own pace. Of course, it permits mass teaching. At a time, many people can go through a sequence of the task which is pre-programmed already. It can lead to high availability. Disadvantages. a person who's not good at programming or programmed instruction will face a difficulty, and it may be time consuming for them. And of course, if material, proper guiding material is not available, definitely it will not be a success, and there will be no group dynamics then, since it is a single execution part. It provides immediate feedback to the trainee after the response. Then disadvantage, there will be no group dynamics. So all these things we saw. It provides immediate feedback to trainees. So with this, I complete all the teaching methodologies which can be followed. So to be an overview of whatever we saw today, teaching methodologies, it can be done through either a lecture or an workshop or a symposium or an programmed material or usage of ICT tools. So I told you some of the ICT tools. Those things are not limited to the mentioned alone. You can anything that is software oriented or application oriented or hardware oriented. You call it as an ICT, information and communication technology tool. So with this, I complete my lecture. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you, Prem sir.
Ma'am, thank you, ma'am. Participants, you have any queries? Kindly unmute yourself, ask the questions, or put in chat box. Participants, you have any queries? Kindly unmute. Okay, ma'am. I think no question from participant side.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Thanks for that.
This is time for a vote of thanks on behalf of Sri Sairam Institute of Technology and the Department of Mechanical Engineering. We very much thanks to our guest speaker, Dr. Sridevi ma'am, who spared time from her busiest schedule to grace the occasion. Today we had an opportunity to hear your thoughts. This will surely going to encourage us, ma'am. I thank you for your wonderful presentation, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
And I thank all the participants for their effective participation. Thank you. So next session will be start.
By 2 o'clock.
Next session will start at 2 o'clock. Thank you.